And we are ready to start our policy meeting.
Okay, terrific. Thanks, Jody. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Welcome, Meredith Starzik. We're happy to have you with us today. First item up on the agenda is the minutes from last meeting. I read them over. Let me just get the date. The board book font, I don't know if it's just me, it's so small.
I know it is. It's October 5th.
October 5th, 2021. I read them over and they looked great to me. I don't have any changes.
No changes.
I don't know if no changes. Okay, so let's have a motion to approve those minutes. Taffy?
Move to approve the October 5th policy meeting minutes.
Yes, great. Welcome, Sharon. We're just approving the minutes. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them. I looked at them. I didn't see any additions. So
and you're muted, Sharon.
Oh.
Thanks.
Okay, great. So let's just do a quick vote to approve those minutes then. All in favor?
Aye, Taffy.
Aye. Okay.
Aye, Sharon.
Sharon? Yes, perfect. Okay, so those pass and have been approved as listed.
Is there a second on the motion?
Oh,
No,
was there?
I'll second.
Sharon?
I'll second. Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Am I allowed to make the motion and second? I'll retract
Probably
my
not.
second
So
and
throw me
lob
in
it
there.
over to
Retract
Sharon.
that.
Yeah.
Sharon.
Thanks, Sharon. Okay. I do believe that we have the discussion of the graduation requirements, but I believe since Meredith's here and her time is limited, we're going to switch the order of the agenda and discuss policy 6146.2, credit for online courses. So correct, Lisa, you want to do that one first?
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't we go through already all of the policy piece, or was that in the curriculum meeting?
I think we did go through that.
We went through that.
Yeah.
It's really the online piece that needs clarification that Principal Gavoni said. And the reason she's not here, quite frankly, is she's leading PD.
Right.
And Meredith has a lot more of the minute details, if you will, about the history of this. So if we could reference, for example, if you look at the policy, I'm looking first at the policy to see, okay, it's number 7. And it says credit for courses taken online will be subject to policy 6146.2. Meredith, I believe you're familiar with the slight change in the requirements, right? I am sure the administrative team at the high school went through them with you.
They did. I apologize. I don't have the hard copy in front of me, but I am familiar with the change.
Yeah. But the change, like the other things in it, like the clusters, all that. Okay.
Sure.
So now we have the credit for online courses that we need your good thinking on. If you could, if we could kind of go through it, if that works bit by bit, Melissa.
That sounds like a good plan.
So why don't we start with, why don't we just take a moment to look at where it says credit for online courses. Meredith, you have it up?
I don't have it now.
Okay.
Is there a
Let's
way?
see if there's a way.
She needs to have this. So can you?
Yeah.
PDF
Someone just email
I'm going
it
to
to her?
email it to her now from the agenda.
Okay, I'm going to read the first part if that makes sense. The Western Board of Education recognizes the importance of digital learning in education and the growing value and use of online coursework. In that regard, and in accordance with Connecticut general statutes, the board sanctions the receipt of online course credit, including credit to be used toward high school graduation requirements in accordance with this policy. So basically that means that what we've done is online courses can be used. Then there's a pre-approval process. Do you have it, Meredith, now? Did you get it? Jody, can you shut the door? Because we're echoing, or mute yourself. Okay, so pre-approval to receive credit for online courses, including credit could be used towards high school graduation, which are not otherwise offered by the high school. And that's the part we want to kind of look at. Students must, prior to registering for the course, receive approval from the high school principal or his or her designee. The decision of the principal or his or her designee with regard to online course credit approval is final. Pre-approval for online course credit may be granted if the following requirements are met. So basically, just to kind of put that in layman's terms, I see how that works is how it worked when I was principal was a counselor would notify a principal or assistant principal and say, this is the situation why this child needs to take an online course. We would discuss it. The parents clearly would be in the loop. And then the administrators in collaboration with the guidance would approve it. Is that correct, Meredith?
It is. Some of the scenarios that we experience with this could be for advancement purposes, where they have to get the CIL and administration approval. For example, in math, if they were trying to accelerate themselves in a math sequence, or sometimes we've had students do this for scheduling conflicts. If they've had scheduling conflicts and are unable to get a course in their schedule, here at the school, they have taken an online course to kind of keep up with that content area. We've had that done in world language, for example. And
Can
also,
I ask a question about that point, Meredith? Just because if what we're talking about is which are not otherwise offered by the high school, how are we approving that situation where you're talking about where someone wants to take like an algebra class outside or somewhere else to get accelerated, or where there's a scheduling conflict and we're offering the course but not at a time they can take it.
That's why I targeted that phrase. I think we have to come back to it.
Because basically what the distinction sometimes is they're not getting credit towards graduation for that course, but we're counting it in the sense of accelerating their sequence. So that's where sometimes there's a little bit of difference.
So online courses right now are not at all being given any sort of credit towards graduation.
Some are.
Okay.
Some
All right.
are,
I guess we need to get to that.
including credit in the first paragraph, including credit to be used toward high school graduation. I think, like, for example, you might say, well, how could a kid not get a class? We have over 60 singletons.
Yeah.
So, for example, AP Chem is a singleton, Studio Art, singleton, Chinese 4, singleton, Chinese 2, singleton, French 3 can be a singleton. And so let's say you don't want to have a kid choose between French 3 and AP Chem, or that's kind of an extreme,
Right.
or French 5 and AP Chem. We look for a way that the child can continue the sequence. It's just the scheduling reality of a school with 800 students in it, to be frank.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So should I just keep reading? Is this helpful? And then
Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
was just when
Okay.
you
And
flagged that, that's what it's-
and also I appreciate you pointing out the points of conflict, like where we're.
Well, we might want to talk about it. Yeah.
yeah.
Number 1, these are the requirements. The workload required by the online course is equivalent to that of a similar course taught in a traditional setting. Is that good, Meredith?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think part of that is like, let's say, for example, I'll give an example. Someone wants to take French conversation or something that perhaps isn't really, it's like a fun kind of extracurricular experience in the form of a course. That might cause us pause. Now, does that happen often, Meredith?
It doesn't usually happen often. There's a couple of online agencies that obviously are not as good as some others. However, where it comes really into play is some of the non-full-time agencies do not produce transcripts because they're not accredited schools. So we want to make sure our kids are taking classes at our accredited schools.
So do we want to, that might be a point where we can talk about accredited schools, because you're right. They come up with this plan and it's like, wait a minute, who's delivering this instruction? So maybe we want to come back to that. Okay, number 2, the content of the online course is rigorous and aligned with the curriculum guidelines approved by the State Board of Education where appropriate. Sounds similar to number 1. Any comment on that, Meredith?
No.
I mean, if it was a guideline, for example, if the state says we have to take US history, we have to take civics. Let's say it was a course that it was not really aligned with that, you couldn't use it for graduation.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, the course engages students and has interactive components, which may include, but are not limited to, required interaction between students and their teachers, participation in online demonstration, discussion boards, or virtual labs. So that, I think, all of these, I think, are speaking to the rigor of the course.
And that's going to vary.
The program of instruction for such online coursework is planned, ongoing, and systematic. And then it says, the courses are taught by teachers who are certified in Connecticut or another state and have received training on teaching in an online environment, or offered by institutions of higher education that are accredited by the Connecticut Board of Regents for Higher Education or regionally accredited, and then C, then the next one. Well, it says and then it goes to number 6. What was the and? Maybe it's the principal has determined that given the student's academic and disciplinary history, the student is, no, that doesn't relate to that.
You have a page problem.
I have the same thing.
Yeah, and I pulled this off the website. Hold on, let me look.
Does anybody have the other missing page?
I do not. It doesn't look as if we're missing a page. It just looks as if part of the text is cut off because it goes from 5 to 6, unless there's beyond B.
Or is that the intro? It's kind of a weird intro for number 6.
Could be.
Melissa, is this how they write these policies?
This how you write your policies, Melissa? You're muted, Melissa.
I'm going to go download off the policy again because this is where I pulled
No, I
it.
think it's there, Jody, because I mean, I'd be curious to as a double check, but if you
Yeah.
look at the page numbers, it's 1 and then 2. You can see the number 2 on the second page.
It might just
I
be an
think what
awkward
they did
introduction.
is put that and to link 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 6, but that's not necessary.
Let's
And
get
it's
the and
confusing,
out.
so
I think
let's
it's
strike the
confusing.
and. Yeah.
The principal has determined, number 6, the principal has determined in his or her professional judgment that given the student's academic and disciplinary history, the student is appropriately suited to engage in online coursework. Quite frankly, I feel like that's repetitive of everything we've said before. But anyway, let's go to the additional requirements and then we can talk about concerns. Additional requirements. Only students in grade 9 to 12 are eligible to receive credit toward high school graduation by taking online courses. Students who have been pre-approved shall receive such credit upon completing the online course and obtaining a passing grade from the provider of the course. Okay, this next part is important. The course will be recorded on the student's transcript on a pass-fail basis.
Oh,
So there is no grade attached, correct, Meredith?
So what we've been doing, and I think that's why we wanted to look at the policy, is our practice has been online courses do not appear on the Weston High School transcript. What we do currently is for any student who takes an online course and they have a transcript from an accredited institution, we send that transcript along with the Weston High School transcript to college applications or any other institution they would like us to request to send. So that is the part that I think we need to look at.
So Meredith, is the thought behind that, and hear me out, maybe I'm completely wrong, but if I were a college and I'd look at a transcript, and let's say I was looking at Ben Ferrero's transcript, and I saw that in the middle of it, he had a course that said, I don't know, applied chemistry or something, and then it had a pass. And it was on the Weston High School transcript. I'd be like, gee, why did he take that as a pass?
yeah.
Maybe he couldn't take it. But if it were attached, I'd be like, oh, he must have taken it for acceleration, or the policy of the school is that they don't factor it into the GPA. So actually, I would think that the transcript would be, the extra transcript wouldn't be a red flag, but it would kind of clarify the type of course. Am I wrong in that? What are your thoughts, Meredith?
No, that's true. Because, our admissions representatives get very familiar with our curriculum and our sequence. And so anything that, we don't want to leave things out there that are not easy to explain. And we look at the Weston High School transcript as our document. So Weston's document, Weston's teachers, Weston's grading policies, our school profile, everything's the same. So that's why when we have students who take outside coursework, we don't like to put them on ours because it's different. Teachers are different, grading policies are different, scales are different. So we kind of like to keep them as very separate entities, and the colleges can see that.
Can we have on the transcript, are you talking about a second page, or can we just have a second
Box.
a different box saying like online classes taken, this class pass fail? Can we do something like that? So it does show that, they've taken, we don't need to explain why they took an online class. Let's let the reps figure that out for themselves, whether it's for acceleration or because of other issues. But, to differentiate them from the regular curriculum, would that make sense?
I think where it gets tricky is you're dealing with a document that has a template and there's not that much room to elaborate.
Okay.
So we could put like online classes and maybe list courses, but we're not gonna be able to tell them where they took them,
No.
that much more information if we put it in a side box.
I don't know. Do they need or do they want to know where they took them? I mean, if we go through creating this policy saying that in order for the student to take an online course, it has to be approved by our district. They have to kind of at some point in time trust our district to not allow them to take it from, places that are questionable. So unless you think that it needs to be clarified where they took them, could we just have it listed as an online course pass fail?
I think the students would have an issue with that because a lot of them will take it, like, for example, at Georgetown, and some people will take it at Keystone Online High School. And I think the students would want that differentiated for the colleges.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
that makes
I would.
sense. Yeah.
I most definitely, I most definitely would. And I think it all adds to the collective package of the child, correct? Because if it
So the concern, so can I just ask again,
Yeah,
the
sure.
concern then is that the college admissions will only see pass fail and will wonder if something went awry. And there's nowhere in the Common App or anything else, or the transcripts, or anywhere else on the application. I mean, could the burden be on the student on the app, is there anything else you want to add, Common App box, to say my pass fail course was an online accredited course? And where is there any other place to put in the narrative of applications? Or
There's
do they?
Having just gone through the Common App myself,
Yeah, me
there
too.
was no area for
Yeah.
pass fail or anything like that. Some schools ask you to self-report grades. Only one of the schools that Nick applied to out of 8 asked to self-report grades, and that was a little wonky.
Yeah.
And even then, there was no place for online.
And they may
Yeah.
not, they may just only be looking at transcript and later look at narrative, right? And they just might not make that connect. Yeah, it needs to be right on the transcript is what you're saying.
Can I ask a question, and can we just maybe step back a minute?
Mhm.
So this policy was created a couple of years ago. I can see that this isn't the first draft of it. This is what we have in existence. So when I look at these policies first, my first and most important thought is that they're applied consistently across all circumstances, fairly to all students. Is that happening? I mean, I guess what I'm wondering is, why are we looking at this issue? Are we getting parent complaints or student complaints, or was there an unfair application in somebody's opinion? Meaning we've been applying this policy consistently one way, and there's a certain circumstance with a particular student where the right result isn't happening. We're following the policy by the rules, but the result doesn't seem fair to us. So we're taking a look at this to try and correct the language to make sure that it treats all students across all grades fairly. Or is this just because of COVID and now we're having more online applications, we're taking another look at it? I just want to understand the context.
I think we want to be more consistent with our practices. To date, we have not been putting courses of online nature on our transcripts. We haven't been doing that for anyone. And the policy, obviously, when you read it, may make people believe that is something that we could be doing, that we have been doing, and we haven't been. So we wanted to make sure that we are aligned with our practices with that.
Perfect.
But I also think the reason we haven't been is, well, it's not just it's not just because it wouldn't fit right on the transcript. We believe, and Randy Green, the college counselor, has looked at this too, that this is the best way to do it as far as to accurately represent the student's trajectory in the Western Public Schools. Correct?
Is by listing the grade as pass fail. That's Randy's opinion?
No, no, we would not grade work that we did not evaluate ourselves. We would give credit. But we would, because if we grade it, then it becomes part of the GPA.
Yeah.
And our GPA, fair. And that's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're using it for acceleration, if you're using it for enrichment, if you're using it because you need credit recovery, those are all great reasons. And quite frankly, you meet the expectation by getting the credit and the pass. To attach that to a grade that one of, our teachers and in our high school did not evaluate the work, assess the work, and all that, that's a real slippery slope. That's one of the reasons why we didn't do it. Correct, Meredith?
It's true. And I have to say too, the way we've been doing it has been working in the sense that Naviance allows us to upload at least 2 additional transcripts in addition to their Weston High School transcripts. So we have the capability within our systems to forward all those transcripts on to whoever needs them.
Okay, so in practice, what's happening if a student takes trigonometry over the summer? I don't even know if that's a course anymore, but some accelerated math class to get to a higher level. And they take it over the summer so that they can start in their junior year at a higher level. That course is listed on our transcript as a pass. No, it is not listed on our transcript at all. It's just not there. And then the transcript from Norwalk Community College or wherever they had it done is attached as a pass-fail. And for the Weston student, it does not factor into the GPA in any circumstance, but they are permitted to take the next level math class at Weston High School. Okay, and all right.
So isn't it a trigger for the, isn't it a clue for the college admissions folks when they see a transcript from another institution attached? That's the I mean, is it everyone's policy that it's pass fail? Like, don't they go, oh, that's a pass fail because it was taken online? Or is that just our policy?
Policies are very different from high school to high school. I've learned even in our area, there are some area schools that will take that grade, that B or that A, and put it on their transcript as a course.
And factor into GPA or just put it on there? Oh, wow.
Okay,
So
now
I feel like you're going to
not
go
to,
form
go,
shopping.
not to dig too deep or go back too far, but why don't we do that?
Well, we feel like since they're not our teachers, our grading scale, something that we don't own, we shouldn't be putting it on our document. We'll give them credit for doing it where they did it, and we want the schools to know where they did it and how and when. However, we feel like our document needs to stay with the students, the courses the students took in our building with our teachers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a consistency issue, right? I mean, you could have, what if there were an easier course somewhere that students felt like they could get a better grade if they took it over the summer here and kind of boost up their GPA, and then students that were working over the
Absolutely.
summer didn't have that opportunity. That doesn't seem fair.
Just so you know, when you go to different schools, you know, like Meredith was saying, the way that the colleges look at the transcripts are very different. Nick transferred from Weston High School with a 3.8 over to Fairfield Prep, and his GPA immediately got stripped down to a 3.4 something or other. And I was like, what? They take all of the stuff out. They take out art. They take out honors, band, jazz. They take out PE. They take out everything. And they just do core classes.
They recreate a transcript?
They took his transcript and they basically said, your 3.8 at Weston is not a 3.8 at Prep. Your 3.8 at Weston is a 3.4 something or other at Prep.
But when they apply to school,
That's
when he
interesting.
applies, they don't recreate a transcript.
No. He has to have official transcripts from both schools for
Okay,
the
yeah,
application
so
process.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I asked them, because my thing was like, why would you do that? You know, I mean, these are great. They're great GPA boosters. And they said, because most of the colleges do that anyway. Most of the colleges take those classes right out. Not all of them. Clearly, every college has a different way of approaching it. But they didn't even count them in. So basically, every school has their way of doing it. And, you know, if we start, to Meredith's point, if we start taking other schools' online courses and putting them into the GPA, the colleges will see right through that. And we'll actually lose credibility as a school, I think, for doing that. So I think that what we're doing is the right thing.
All right,
Well,
well,
what
this
we're
sounds like
doing
we're
is
all in
being-
agreement.
yeah, directing what we need. So let's take
We
the
just need
last
to make
line
sure the
on.
policy reflects what we're doing. And I think there's a couple places where it doesn't.
So just in the last line of the additional requirements, it should say something like, the course will be recorded. No, the course will be recorded on the institution's transcript and attached to the official Weston High transcript, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got that, Jody?
And Jody, if you want to send, while we're taking notes on this and making comments, since there's not a way on Board Book to type it all up and see it live, I'm taking notes, you're taking notes, we can correspond by email and make sure that the draft changes we're on the same page, and then we can circulate this again at our next policy meeting to make sure everybody agrees with it. Does that sound reasonable?
And I go back and I watch the videos to do more notes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. I know there's not a way to do it live. Yeah.
The last line
will
says, any expense incurred for taking the online course shall be responsibility of the student and should not be the responsibility of the Board of Education. That's correct. Correct? Unless in some special education circumstance or something like that, correct? It happens in rare occasions.
What about this is a just a newbie question, but what about in situations in which there's a disciplinary issue? Does that fall on the student, the cost for a class, or is that something that we as a
If there was a disciplinary issue, and let's say it was an expulsion or something like that, just for protocol, if someone is suspended, we, do, let's say someone's suspended out of school, they access their learning. If someone is expelled, then that is part usually of, just a quick thing. If someone is expelled, it doesn't go before the Board of Ed, it goes before an independent hearing officer. Remember, we voted on that.
Yep.
Usually part of a stipulated agreement is reached before. It involves, there's a agreement about how we will educate the child. And
Okay.
you're correct. It could then be a cost to the district.
All right. So does that need to be incorporated into the policy, I guess is my question, when they talk about the cost incurred for online classes?
I don't think so. Do you, Melissa? Because any expense incurred for the taking shall be the responsibility, and that should be the responsibility. I don't know, I don't know if we need to say exceptions per the PPT process and disciplinary process. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know if it needs to be stated. It will happen.
All right. Then if it doesn't,
Yeah,
need
I
to be
think-
stated, let's
I
not
think we
complicate
should.
it.
Should
No,
we
I think
put it or
should
not?
State it. I think we should state it and refer to the policy numbers because we have a policy for how
Okay.
expelled students receive educational.
Any expense incurred.
requirements.
Okay.
So it's for disciplinary, and what was the second one? PPTs?
PPT. Exceptions include,
May include.
oh, good catch. May include, and then we'll put like PPT and then we'll have to
Yeah.
reference
And then we
that.
can just list the policy guidelines, just so that, somebody that finds this, that is in the situation of disciplinary. I mean, people might come to our policies and research it for a specific purpose, and we just want to give them as much information so they can get to the right place.
Right.
Sharon Ferraro
Okay.
on top of her game.
Not to throw a wrench into
Newbie
it.
comes through.
I almost wonder, is there a term for like pupil services?
Yeah.
Just because 504 also sometimes goes into that category. So if we say PPT, that's strictly special ed, but we have a lot of 504s, and sometimes students access online learning that way when they can't come to school for
Right.
some reasons.
Okay.
Okay.
Make it broader.
It's like a broader.
Should it say something like, maybe, I don't know, exceptions may be granted by pupil?
The pupil services department.
Yeah, I'd be careful with the 504.
You froze,
Uh-oh.
Sharon.
We'll just
All
put
right.
pupil services department. Does that sound right?
Because that also encompasses homebound tutoring situations when we have students who are out for extended
Yeah.
periods of
Yeah.
time, and sometimes we want to access some things
Right.
like that. So I think it would cover it.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that grant that. So I think it would cover that whole umbrella.
How
Yeah.
about exceptions may be granted by the director of pupil services?
Correct.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if that would also count the expulsions, because whenever you do that, it's through the director of pupil services.
There you go.
That
Yep.
person is
Yeah,
a part of
okay.
this. Maybe that's a clear way, because I don't want people to read this and say, my kid was suspended 3 days, send a tutor to the house.
Mhm.
That's not
Yeah.
for that. Yeah, I like that. Way to go, Meredith.
What a team this morning. Everybody's had their coffee and their happy
All the
pills this
newbies are online. Whoa. Shall we go back to the, I think we're in agreement that the first paragraph is good, right? Credit for online courses, the description is okay.
Get back to
And then we have the intro. Do we want to include which are not otherwise offered? Wait, which are not otherwise offered by the high school. Students must.
Will, can you help me out with the dog, please?
The thing I wonder if we need to clarify is where it says which are not otherwise offered by the high school. Sometimes they are offered and we do it anyway. So
I mean, we definitely did that during COVID because of the way scheduling was. We allowed some students to do online coursework of courses that we offer. And again, we have some students, I've seen throughout the years, where you have someone who's interested in STEM, wind ensemble, and French. Sometimes there's an issue and you don't want them to not be able to continue with, something. So that's a tricky one.
should we just take that clause out, you think?
Sorry, Lisa, which clause? Sorry.
Line 2. To receive credit for online courses, including credit to be used toward high school graduation requirements, students must, prior to registering for the course, which are not otherwise offered by the high school.
That doesn't make sense because some, like, they are offered by the high school.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
how can we, but that is the
which
first
are not
litmus test.
available through the high school, or which
No, they're
are
available.
No, they are. It's a
Yeah,
they're
scheduling
available.
issue.
No, I mean,
Is
that's
it-
what I mean, which are not available to the student
Yes.
through the high school. You know what I mean? Like,
If we specify student,
And I want to say, I can tell you why this wording I think was put in. This wording was put in because we want to try to avoid students going and taking our courses somewhere else because they think maybe they're easier or maybe it's, that. So we want to try
that's-
to avoid that. That was the reason behind it. However, we do have exceptions. So how do we kind of word it so it works both ways?
I think we have to be a little more precise. What
Maybe we put
are we
something like,
concerned? Are we concerned that students, I guess from a policy standpoint and from a board standpoint, how do we feel about students doing this kind of, I think it's two different scenarios, right? One would be they're taking math classes or language classes to accelerate themselves. Do we think that generally that's a good thing, or is that causing problems because maybe it's not working out that they're at the right level when they return to Weston? And also in terms of the scheduling, I would imagine that's something we're supportive of, right? If our student can't get the class because they're taking one of these other singletons, then we're motivated to get them in the right place, right? So these
Yeah, I
are
think
things
for
we
the
want to
most part-
encourage
Yeah, and I
in
think for
these
the most
limited
part,
circumstances.
the students are doing it for the right reasons, and I think they're choosing the courses appropriately. I think what we've added a couple years ago that will probably help with some of these situations is we added the approval process with the request form, where they have to get the CIL signature, they have to get the administrator's signature, their counselor's signature. So we would be able to say, listen, we don't think this is appropriate. We have this course here; it fits in your schedule. We don't see a need for you to take this online. However, on the opposite side, we can say, oh, you're right. You can't take this course here because of your schedule. We will approve this online course for you. So I think that form will help a little bit.
do
Yeah.
we put something like, does this sound bad? I don't know. Like, let's say, forget the first one, like before the number one, you write something like, number one, the course is not offered by Weston High School. Number two, the course is offered by Weston High School. However, due to conflicting issues, it is recommended that the student take it offline. Like, so I don't know.
that's a good.
Can we separate it out like that? Like, I don't know what the wording would be, but like, okay, the course is offered. However, due to a particular situation, the counselor and student feel, the counselor, parent, and student feel this is the best option. Something in there that.
That brings up a point, and that is, Lisa, does it have to be on your recommendation? Meaning, can they just go off and do it themselves?
No.
Or do you
And
have to
that's
recommend?
No.
they have
That's
to.
what we want to avoid, because
So
we've
there's
had
the
people.
phrase.
We've
There's
had
the
people
phrase
go and
on
do
the
things.
on the recommendation of the Weston High School. That's the phrase.
So instead of saying courses that are not offered, we can say courses that are not offered, or courses that are offered but due to a scheduling conflict, students are not
Or
able to
something.
take. Something
Right.
along those lines. Scheduling conflict, I think, is probably one of those things that we want to include in there.
I
But
say,
I would also add on the recommendation of the school counselor.
I think we should take out that line, which are not authorized, and make the new number one, the courses aren't offered. Number two, the course is offered, however, on the recommendation of the counselor, this is an appropriate option.
No, but these are requirement 1 through 5 are ands, not ors. They all must be met. So I think we have to keep it all under all under numeral 1, right? The courses are not offered at Weston High School in the event, or exactly all on
Scheduling
number 1.
conflict.
Okay,
Got
so
it.
that
Due to a
one would
scheduling
be
conflict.
the new one.
Yeah.
Those two would combine to be a new one. Is that what you're saying?
No. She's saying in the paragraph preceding number 1, correct?
No, I'm saying
Right.
we could do it 2 ways. We could list it in the
Pre-approval?
paragraph, or remove it from, take out the clause that says otherwise offered by
Which
the
are
high
not
school,
otherwise
and make-
offered by the high school.
Right. take that out and make number 1, because now we're talking about pre-approval for online credit course may be granted in the following circumstances are met. Number 1, the course is not offered by Weston High School, or
yeah,
it is not available to the student due to scheduling requests
Yeah.
or acceleration.
or recommendation. Yeah, I think it should
Recommendations
stand
for
alone
acceleration.
because
That's-
people that look at these, they go to the bullet points. They don't necessarily read the paragraph.
Yeah, but those two have to go into one bullet, Lisa, because
Yes.
Yeah,
these
one
5
bullet,
bullets-
but not in the big long text.
right.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's do that.
Okay.
I love having a lawyer on the policy committee. Thank you,
Content
Melissa.
of the online course is
Make the
rigorous.
distinction between ors and ands.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, so many of these, maybe it's me, I don't know, Melissa. How would you read it? So many of these, like, okay, I get number 2. It's approved by the State Board of Education. It's taught by people that are certified, but the whole thing about engagement, it's planned, ongoing, and systematic. I mean, those 3 and 4 would be
We're
incorporated
similar.
in number 2 under the course, right, Meredith? I mean, I would be hard pressed to say that a content of an online course that is aligned with curriculum guidelines and taught by certified people and offered by institutions and accredited. I don't even think we need 3 and 4, but maybe that's just me.
Well, I think three, I mean, to my read, 3 is getting at I don't have much experience with online courses, but I would imagine 3 is getting at a situation where somebody's just observing something and turns in a paper at the end or takes a test at the end. 3 is getting at dialogue, back and forth, interaction, feedback, and that.
Meredith,
I
do
don't
you
know
think
if
it's
that's-
necessary? Because frankly, who's checking that? I'm being
I
blunt.
have to say, yeah, I would say if it's an accredited institution, that there's going to be all of that involved within the coursework. It's, they use Blackboard, they have discussion groups, and, the teacher, gives them feedback and they're engaged, and the time is usually there as well. So I think it usually included in the accredited institutions. However, you're right. There's programs out there that like to say that they do courses, and that I think is where it's different. And I think that's something that we wouldn't approve.
If they're not accredited, we wouldn't approve it.
But where does it say it has to be accredited? All I'm seeing is approved by the State Board of Education. Is that what you mean by accredited?
Look at
or is an
5B.
accreditation something separate?
Look at 5B.
Accredited. Yeah. Connecticut Board of Regents for the higher education. Yeah.
And if it's certified by a teacher, that's the other thing. Like, to me, those are higher standards than that it's rigorous. I mean, it doesn't do any harm keeping it in, I guess I would say.
Well, I think if what we're looking for is pre-approval, right? These five or six things must be met before it's approved. So who's making the approval? Is that the high school principal? I see approval from the high school principal, right?
Yes.
Well,
So
it says
the
up
high
top.
school principal,
Or
yeah, the high school,
Yes.
correct, right. So the high school principal is going to be looking at these 6 points with respect to every application for an online course. So I think the question is, do we want to give the high school principal more or less discretion in making these decisions?
Okay, why don't we leave it in and just get rid of number 6 then? That's my new proposal. Because that's kind of given. Like, obviously, I'm going to use, or Julie or whoever's going to use their personal judgment that it's suited to engage on online work. I don't think we need 6.
Well, but what happens if they come up and they say, no, you just need to approve the course, not whether or not I'm allowed to take it, right? Or not? Am I reading too much into it?
Oh, maybe you are reading more into it that should be there. What do you think, Meredith? I'm trying to think of real life situations.
Me too. And unfortunately, I think that when the child gets to the point, like let's say it is a disciplinary thing or something like that, if the child gets to
Yeah,
the
maybe
point,
we should keep it in.
parents start looking for loopholes.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, we don't want a situation where children are not performing in Weston schools and they think that they can just,
Yes.
do it over the summer and it'll be fine. Like, you don't get to redo. I mean, I know you're not getting graded, but you still don't get a
No do-overs.
free pass. Yeah, no do-overs. I also think like one of the things when I look at these requirements, I always think ahead to the appeal process, right? Like somebody at some point is not going to like the decision that's been made. So when
Correct.
it's appealed, we're going to be looking at these situations to decide if Julie or whomever succeeds Julie is made the decision that that is appropriate. So we'd be looking at these 6 things. And the more we limit this, or the more we edit these out, I think the less of a robust discussion you'll have, because there's just you're confined to smaller parameters. I mean, are some of these arguably a little bit redundant? I mean, maybe. But without
Yeah, you're
seeing
right.
a lot of appeals in this, or what's going on, I think it's hard to know why people would be upset with the decision to not get online course approval.
Okay, so why don't we leave it alone and add the 2 pieces that we talked about for number 1, the or, leave everything else alone, and then change the piece about the official transcript. That's what I'm hearing is the consensus of the group.
So.
Taffy, does that sound good?
Yeah.
Sharon?
Yeah.
Mayor, do you have any other concerns or forever hold your peace? No.
No, I think this is good. This is all positive.
Thank you for pushing back, because I think you're right, Melissa and Sharon, on those points. I think you're right.
What is the appeals process for this? Because that's not in here. How do we handle that? How have we handled a complaint or an appeal from a parent on these decisions?
Would it go through the complaint process? And then, frankly, I would see this as something that the Board of Education would not hear the complaint. It would be the superintendent, because this is sort of like operations.
So let's make sure that we lay
Yeah.
that out, because as we look at, for example, what we're dealing with right now with masking policies, we need to have a very clear path for, if you disagree.
Well, but it says,
Here's who the final decision maker is.
didn't it say something about that? Hang on, let me go back to the intro.
Let me get back to it.
I can give you the 2 scenarios that generally come up,
Okay.
and how they've been handled to date. Usually, we've had some discussion around a type of course when it comes down to acceleration, where the CIL has not felt like the course the student was choosing to pursue was going to cover enough material to accelerate here and be where everyone else is at Weston High School. That's come up a couple times in math and a couple times in world language. So usually the family and the CIL has worked that out, and the CIL will give suggestions on these are other courses that I think would be better suited for acceleration. So that's one time that there's sometimes some pushback. The other pushback we received over the years are people wanting to put those courses on our transcript. For example, someone who goes and takes Korean somewhere else, they want it to be on our transcript with a grade and credit and average into the GPA. So those are the 2 scenarios, honestly, that come up the most.
All right. So we've addressed the one with the grade and the GPA.
And it says in our pre-approval that the decision of the principal or his designee is final.
All right. So then that maybe
There
there
you
is an
go.
appeals process.
Yep.
So I think if somebody doesn't like the decision, it'll go to Lisa. It'll come via a letter or a complaint or something. So they'll have a voice.
But ultimately, the principal's
There.
decision is final.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
So is the
Yay.
next step we
Yeah.
clean up this language and then we bring it to a first read?
Well, I mean, we can do it 2 ways. We can clean up the language and bring it to a first read for November. If we feel like that's too rushed, and I don't know how much of a time pressure we're feeling with this policy, we can also take a look at it in red line. Jody, if you make the changes, then we can view it as a committee,
Next board meeting.
quickly at our next policy committee meeting, and then put it in the December board meeting.
Well, what I'm thinking
Well, I guess
is,
it would, December. So
this is something that I, now that I have to think about this. So could we do this? so it's at the second read they vote. You guys vote, correct?
Yes.
So
Yes.
then in the next policy, we talk about it with the changes. Then in December, we bring both the credits for graduation and this one to, oh no, that would be a first read. Like
This
I was
one would be
thinking
a
about
first
how to
read.
get both of them approved at the same time, or do you think it matters? Because one
It
reference.
doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't matter? Okay.
No, I mean, it would be ideal, but the other one will be up for a second read in November because we
So
did the first
when-
read in October, right?
Well, that's my question. When we do second reads, just so I understand, is it immediately or could you postpone it till December?
We could postpone it, but what's the benefit of that?
I'm thinking, and maybe this is wrong, I don't know. With the new board, there might be a need to offer more explanation about it. They would be voting on a policy that they've only really seen the first time.
For you're talking about for the graduation requirements?
Yeah, but I mean, it's the position, not the person, though.
And you know
Don't
what?
worry
But
about
yes,
it.
I hear
To
what
be
you're saying.
perfectly honest with you,
Okay.
we're only gonna have one new board member who wasn't in the October meeting. Victor's replacement is the only one that's
Is that right?
the new board
that
member.
right?
Everyone
Well, I
else.
guess the election will tell. Okay, so I'm worrying about
We're all
something that
under
it doesn't
consent,
matter.
aren't
So
And-
then for the agenda, we should put second read on for graduation requirements in November. Got that, Jody?
Mm-hmm.
And then put first read, I just make notes, in December on this policy,
do
the
we-
online
Right.
I
policy.
think we have a question. Are we comfortable with the changes we've discussed for this going up to first read, or do we want to revisit it in red line form at our policy committee next month and then put it forward for first read in December?
I think we should do that.
think you
just
should do that.
because- Yeah. We don't-
Otherwise,
Jody,
we're all
that's way too
seeing
much
it.
pressure to put
Otherwise,
on
we're all
you.
seeing the finished version for the first time at the big
Back
meeting.
to BOE.
Exactly. Right, and we do have the opportunity to make changes at a first read, but I think, in terms of, it's not typical. I think it's better for us to get it to the near perfect version to present at first read, and then if other board members who weren't at the policy committee meeting, or any members of the public or members of the school community who watch our meeting and think, wait, I have an idea or I have a suggestion, have the opportunity to put that forward as well. So
Well,
I
here's
think
my other
my vote
question.
would be to put it forward to us with the red line in November, and then put
Yes.
it forward
December.
to first read in December.
You mean in the December meeting before the December board meeting?
Yeah, policy
We need a
meeting.
month,
December
right?
committee meeting before, because
I think we need one
Okay.
more policy meeting to discuss this. It'll be a brief discussion. Hopefully we'll just read it and decide that, as a committee, we're comfortable with it.
And then it'll be eligible for the December board meeting. For the
And
first-
then it
first
will be
read.
approved in January. Okay, next question.
January.
Just so I understand, when it goes to the board meeting, and I never paid attention to these intricacies, is it for the first read? I really didn't. We show them the red version, correct? So they can see what the change is?
Yes.
That's an important piece, right? So they see was the original, these are the proposed changes. So when it goes to the Board of Ed meeting, we have the red changes there.
The red line.
Is that
Yes.
correct? The red line version?
Both. I
Both.
mean, I think it's, yeah.
The original and then the
I
change.
think it's usually both, a clean copy.
Okay, I
and the
just
red
want to
line.
make sure that,
It may just
Jody
be
and I
the
know
red
what we're
line.
doing. Jody probably knows more than I, because she's the one that
Yeah,
prepares
Jody,
the
if you-
documents. Okay, all right, so
Jody,
that's
if you go
fine.
back to some board meetings from, a year or two ago, or even 3 years ago back, you can see how Lewis used to do it.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember
take
if
a
it
look.
was red line only or red line and clean.
Okay,
Red line only may be sufficient. I just
okay,
don't
we'll go
remember
back
off the
and
top
look
of
at
my
it.
Okay, I will look.
Okay, all right, so in summary, Board of Ed meeting, second read on graduation requirements, November. Board of Ed meeting, first read online policy, and we're bringing it to the committee before that again.
December, yes.
December, for
Okay.
December, yeah.
All right. Gee, Merritt, did you
Okay.
know it was this complicated?
I know, I'm learning a lot too.
All right, thank you, Meredith. I'm going to let you go back to your PD.
Yes, thanks, Meredith.
Merry
Appreciate the
Christmas.
time.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
You too.
Okay, well, that's the agenda because we don't have anything to talk about on the graduation requirements policy, do we? Does anybody have I shouldn't assume the answer is no.
I'm
Nope.
good.
Okay.
What I
great.
attached was just the draft with all the red line changes incorporated into it. So
Okay.
this is what would be presented at the board meeting,
This will be a
second read.
second read, so it wouldn't be attached as red line. That for the second read, it'll
No.
be final. Right,
Mhm.
exactly. So that's how this is, right? With draft.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Melissa, is there a list somewhere previously developed from this committee of policies that need to be reviewed this year?
You know, Jen did. She had a list of, it was kind of like an ongoing, maybe 20 policies that maybe last 10 to 15 that we would kind of look at and prioritize and say, okay, well, you know, in the next 3 months, we'll try and tackle these two. And then in the next 6 months, we'll try and get to these, you know, with guidance from the superintendent in terms of what issues they saw coming forward, so how to prioritize. But she was kind of going through all of the policies to see which ones were outdated. She'd gone through to make sure that the names were correct, like a lot referenced Lewis or Mike Rizzo or people like that. So she was kind of going through and bringing those to our attention. I mean, those were quick changes, but they're changes that need to be made. So there was a list.
And
I
I
don't
never
know
found
where
anything
she
in
kept
any of the
it.
documents that were here unless it's in her own personal.
All right, let me
Information.
look through my email. Maybe she sent it to me. I'm writing a note right now.
Okay.
Review email. I'll see if I
I
can
also-
find something from Jen.
I also have one quick question. On this document for 6146 graduation policy that we're going to be presenting to the board for the second read, do I change the date at the bottom of the document after the second read, or do I add that date? Because right now, you know, it has the list of all the revision dates.
Mhm.
And the last one was May 20th, 2019. When I present it for the second read, do I add December or November 2021 now, or do I wait until after the second read and we're ready to post it? I'm just curious.
Yeah,
when-
You don't, I don't think you add dates from committee meeting decisions, right? You add
It's
them
once
from
it's
big-
voted.
Yeah.
Okay, so after the second read and they vote and approve, then I would go in and put November 18th,
Correct.
2021, and that
For
would
the
be-
approval, yeah.
Yep.
One thing I think might be helpful, although the principals are all involved in budget, but I still would like to get an email out to them, like Julie had picked up on this one, to just ask the principals if they, in their work, have any thoughts to some policy, like we could double check what
Yeah.
they think, you know, because this policy wasn't on my radar until
I
when
think
Julie
that's a
mentioned
good
it.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
So I will
I'm
reach out to
assuming-
the administrative team.
yeah,
Ask if they
anything
have
that's
Any policies
they're
that
having issues with. Yeah.
Right.
Sure,
I think
because
that's good.
you know,
I'll look and see if I can find Jen's list too, but I don't know. I think it was
yeah,
on-
one of the
on
things I
old
find people
pre-board
say all
book.
the time, and it's just interesting now. I've noticed it more since I've been superintendent. People will say like, "Well, what's the policy on that? What's the policy on that?" And they're not policies; they're like practices
Yeah,
of the school
directives or-
system. And it's kind of like you try to draw a through line back to a particular policy. I just find it interesting that that word policy gets kind of kicked around a lot, and it's not a policy. So
Right.
that I think will kind of trigger. I want to reach out to the administrative team and see if anything, you know, to refresh their recollection on any of those kinds of situations. And then if it looks like it aligns with a policy that we might have to look at.
Or what if
I
they
think
have a
that's a good
practice
idea.
that maybe needs to be addressed and put into
Yeah.
a policy as well? If they're finding a practice that is
Mhm.
frequent,
Well, yeah, if we can't figure out what it even aligns to, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So
I don't
maybe it's
know.
something for them.
Yeah. And then we could just create kind of a working list and tick through
Okay.
them as we can.
Yeah.
That's how we operated before.
Good.
Okay. Well, this
Okay.
was a productive meeting. Thanks for the discussion, everyone. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
I so motion.
Oh, I see Sharon and Taffy. Will you give me a second?
Second.
This is a
Yay.
great
Okay.
committee meeting. Thanks.
Thanks, you guys.
I love it.
Everybody worked hard. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
I know.
Bye.